Hello and welcome to the first look at the re-released Waves StudioRack. The new Waves StudioRack is a complete redesign, incorporating several new powerful features. I'm Jan Kybert, mix engineer and art of mixing instructor at Point Blank. I'd like to present this video as a practical example of StudioRack working while offering my first impressions of these new features. So here we've got a simple 4-bar groove. So we've got an acoustic recorded drum kit and some electronic percussion as well. So one more listen and I'll bypass all the studio racks. So one of the most interesting features about the StudioRack is workflow. Here we've got the electronic perk. Let's have a look at that StudioRack. So the ability to chain plugins really simply and quickly, even by name, so pull up an EQ. Previously we would have to use 4 different plugin slots to achieve the same effect. Here I have the EQ, DBX160, some console emulation and the imager. If we listen, there's no sonic difference when I cut between the two. But here I can save this as a stereo exciter and use this in any DAW session quickly and easily. So let's have a breakdown what we've done in here. So starting off with a kick. So starting off with the kick drum with the processing. Without. Easily, I've got some EQ on the kick drum, API, some 50 for the thud, cleaning up some of that low mid, and quite a lot of 7K for that presence. Then I can go into the DBX160. This would be a familiar chain for me, so again I can save this as API kick, and then that will be available in any mix session when I'm using StudioRack. Here we've got a blank instance of StudioRack, and here I've got a creative use for StudioRack. So this sprinkled to taste is a technique from an American famous mix engineer in a rock genre, where they often duplicate the snare, acoustically recorded snare microphone. Here we've got the snare top, and we've duplicated that, and then we give it some aggressive processing. So first of all, we've got some harmonic distortion with the Berserk. And then we've got the EQ cleaning up some of the highs and upper mid-range because it can get quite unpleasant. And here's a cool feature. So then we parallel split to the spring reverb. So this sounds like. And within the StudioRack now, I've got saturated EQ signal with a fader, and then I get the parallel. And in this case, we're using the spring reverb from the guitar effects that doesn't have a fader for level on it. So here I've got a fader. For more control. Let's just mute this and have a look at the drum bus for a second with the processing. Without. So here I've got the SSL G series, I've got the EQ engage, bit of low end, adding the third, cleaning up some of that low mids, bit of presence for the snare. I often would use some high frequency but just felt I didn't need it. So then that gets parallel split off. So I have my dry, and then my parallel wet is the EMI TG channel using the limiter quite aggressively. So just the TG. here mixed in. And again, I'll get a fader for that. So just the dry, just the EQ drum bus, and then the TG, which has the EQ, but then I can blend in that ultra heavy compression. Another cool feature is the width, the W down here. So at the end of every split within the racks, Waves are built in the S1 imager to add or remove width, which is a nice little feature. So that's the acoustically recorded drums. So we've got these two loops. The first one without, with the processing. So again, chaining up an EQ, getting rid of some of that high end energy, some of that low end. DBX 160, the ability to switch off the plugin so you can hear where you're up to in the chain. Really easy, really intuitive. DBX 160, great on drums. Watch out when you get over 10 dB of gain reduction. Here we've got the ability to blend in, so I could split off into a parallel, this compressor. Here I've got the bus, spikes console, lots of drive, adding some of that high-end excitement back in. And then I've put the imager as this is a wider setting than the built-in one is able to do. And again, just savable, easy for workflow. Last but not least, we've got some another loop. I think this is acoustically recorded sticks. Similar to the drum bus, we've got some EQ, removing some low mids. Oh, I've got some filters in here. Let's hear without that. So some of that real high end fizz, cutting that out. Here, going into a parallel split, going into the Abbey Road plate reverb. If you have this, please check out the different plates. A and D sound quite similar, quite big. B and C, a little bit smaller. And then I can just EQ some of that high end out of there, out of just the reverb. Cool, so one last listen. I'm just gonna bypass and unbypass the StudioRacks that I've got engaged. So with. Really cool, powerful features. We didn't look at the multiband. Adding a multiband split will now create any Waves plugin, new and old. If it has a multiband feature or not, it doesn't matter anymore. Within StudioRack you do. So here we can have the Pointblank 670, compressing everything under 200, and then we could have the Kramer tape. There's some sort of saturated, tape compression saturation happening above that, where that would have been quite complicated and not as fast as that to set up previously. So that's the new Waves updated StudioRack. So looking forward to using this myself. I hope you enjoyed it. Take care. Bye for now.